There you are. Welcome back to the Formula One Sim Racing World Championships 2025. I'm your host, Tom Deacon. For the next 3 days, we'll be racing in 4 epic tracks. We'll be at Spa-Francorchamps, we'll be at Zandvoort and Kota, and today we kickstart things with Silverstone. Now, event 1 was truly magnificent. Extraordinary races with 4 different winners. Will it be the same time for this event 2? Well, we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, if you missed it, here is a recap. Are back.
It is time for a new season of F1 sim racing.
Alex, remember when we used to commentate, we thought, 2 laps of action, that's an absolute thriller. What is going on this year?
I was pretty much sure I was going to overtake him, as DRS is very powerful. I was on younger tires as well. Yeah, I just closed that gap using a little bit of DRS, pushing the tires, and yeah, made it happen.
P1 on the last lap, and the man who started on pole is going to win it. What a performance for Ismail Fassi, who crosses the line. Fassi wins the opening race of the year. It is time for Shanghai and round 2. The lights are coming on. They go out and we go racing in China once again. Ronha gets the jump, Ronha gets the apex, and Ronha gets the lead.
Yeah, just had to keep my head cool, make no mistakes.
Change of lead attempted. Heading on to the last lap, Jarno Opmeer gets the lead.
And I just managed to keep the lead on the long back straight.
Here we go. The apex is blocked. Brilliant late braking from Opmeer, who might have judged that one to perfection. 3, 4, 5 red lights in Bahrain.
Here we go.
Faster.
Pookie is right there in second place. Is that going to be Pookie round the outside for the lead?
Look at this move. Will Rodman be able to hang on? The answer's no.
I think there was 4 or 5 times I was quite scared I'm going to get taken out or something.
The top 3 are almost glued together. Are we interested in another 3-wide moment?
Always side by side, so many actions.
Faster, harder, higher, go.
It could have been anyone's race, but Barry Bowman crosses the line.
Well, it felt amazing. It didn't really feel like a win. It felt like I am back.
Our final round of the event. It's going to be an incredibly intense battle. And this is incredible. We've got no idea who's going to take this one.
3 wide going down towards turn 1.
Lawrence got there. Lawrence got the lead.
The race was intense. Lots of battling. I was a lot higher wing than everyone else, so it was quite tight between the top pack.
Lawrence is absolutely in the pound seat to win this one.
He does not learn. The man does not learn. It's unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable. Good luck, Jake.
Collecting other cars, massive accident.
There was a big crash behind, so that helped me a little bit, but yeah, it's very, very nerve-wracking one.
Will it be the champion? Will it be the rookie? It's side by side to the line. It's a drag race to the line. It's going to be so close. Who comes the big one? It's Otis Lawrence, who takes his first victory in the championship.
I'm feeling brilliant. Coming back stronger is the best feeling, and I'm so happy.
He's beaten Jarno Opmeer by the barest margin.
So, yeah, let's see what happens next.
It is time to lock in for event 2 and to do I would say the dirty work and also the most fun work with me at the desk for this event is Alex Jakes, F1 commentator, and Matt Gallagher from P1 with Matt and Tommy. Gentlemen, we're back for event 2. Alex, we heard from Danny Berezny there. He never learns, but what have you learned coming back for event 2?
Learn to expect the unexpected. It was an amazing, sometimes confounding event 1. I think we're going to get more of the same today, but you just don't know. Maybe someone's going to have learned from those first 4 races and make a big step forward. But it was a brilliant way to start the season.
It truly was epic, Matt. It was intense. That's the word that kept being used there, the battles. What did you love most about event 1?
I don't think I've recovered, even now. It was just truly remarkable. You know, we spoke to drivers even sort of halfway through the event. They're like, yeah, the next couple of races probably going to be a little bit dull. And we're thinking, okay, all right, that's going to be interesting. And then we had 4 of the most crazy races I think me and Alex have had the pleasure to commentate over. And it makes you wonder, what have the next 2 events got in store?
Yeah, history books being changed. Williams' first ever win there with Ismail Fassi. Jarno Opmeer winning in China. Bahrain was taken from Barry, and boy, oh boy, did the Scuderia team need to get back into the points at that point. And then Otis Lawrence there, the youngest ever winner in F1 sim racing at 16 years, 9 months and 15 days. It's just been stunning. And 4 different winners. You never knew who was going to take the win.
No, and that's exactly how we want it. Sometimes there's a charm in a season that's got 2 heavyweights slugging it out for the title, and sometimes you just want to see everyone in the mix and a chance for the best driver to take the flag on the day if they've done the job well, and that's what we saw 4 times.
Now, I did get told in our contracts, I've gone beige to be sort of neutral for the teams. You've gone Aston Martin and Ferrari here, Matt. Is that official?
No, that's just the colour.
Just okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Thank you. Good. The banter started early. I love it. Well, I tell you what, as Jakesy's gone with the Aston Martin colour, let's hear from Otis Lawrence picking up his first ever win.
To be honest, the first 3 races weren't the best. You know, I had better pace in the locker. It wasn't my maximum potential, but when we showed in round 4 at Jeddah, I think I was the quickest there.
Will it be the champion? Will it be the rookie? It's side by side to the line. It's going to be so close. Who comes the big one? It's Otis Lawrence. His first victory in the championship.
We nailed it on the strat, just perfect track position. I had the tyres as well to overtake. My wings were high enough. I could get really close and brake very late.
Lawrence got there. Lawrence got the lead.
Which won me that race against Jarno, and I think we nailed it. So we've got to try and carry it on for the next 4 rounds. I'm going to try and get 4 race wins in a row. Unrealistic, but you know, as long as I get very good points, that's the main thing.
Definitely making a name for himself already. His rookie season, Otis Lawrence, 16 years, 9 months and 15 days, as I said. And what a way to come into your rookie season. Yeah. And it was a commanding sort of abilities he's shown in all the 4 races, but getting across that line, beating Jarno Opmeer, truly magical moment for him.
Yeah, to have a lot of time to think about it as well. He would have known that he was in that box seat, if you like, but to know that it's going to go on to the last lap and to have time to think about it. He said, didn't he, at this desk that he began, the heart rate came up, he began to sweat a little bit, and to then pull it off as well, brilliant. Yeah. And it shows that he's here to stay.
Now, I have got it on official authority and information that his dad will not be, he's not here in Sweden, so will not be joining him on the desk again, Matt. But it was a truly special moment where like parents have been there through the dedication, the professionalism that these drivers have to be able to share that moment. It was a touching moment for both of them.
Oh, truly special, you know, and of course all the time that Otis has put into this, he's got the reward for that. And I'm sure there's been conversations over the years of him playing the F1 game. No, I promise you, Dad, this is actually something I can make of myself. And now he's a winner in this championship. And you can see here in the drivers' standings as well, he's very much a title contender.
Ismail Fassi, first driver to get 3 poles in the first 4 rounds of any competition in F1 sim racing. So he has set a benchmark. Jarno Opmeer said that obviously event 1 felt like a horrible event for him, but yet he's still second in the driver's standings. There is a lazy argument, and I'm going to use that phrase, that the old guard are on the way out. But what do you make of that, Alex?
Thomas, so lazy.
It is lazy, but that's why I wanted to discuss it.
I would have thought we would have expected best of you. No, obviously we're getting new names at the front, but that's the nice thing about this championship. That's the nice thing about any sporting competition. The old guard come in, they set standards, then there are new pretenders, and they have to improve, they have to answer it. At the moment, Opmeer's been able to roll with the punches, but it's great to see new names up there.
And the Mercedes, currently top of the constructor standards, they have Danny Berezny, who is the old guard. It was a lazy sort of analysis, which can be argued for and against. You've got Otis Lawrence winning, Ismail Fassi in his 2nd season, but yet Danny Berezny is still delivering an amazing addition for this season for them.
Yeah, I mean, the old guard, of course, have the experience, but to turn up season after season to put in the same amount of effort as the likes of Otis Lawrence, for example, it's difficult. You know, you have to love it. That's how you get improvements. Yeah. So to see, you know, Danny Berezny back to his true self is awesome to see. Mercedes at the top, even though we've been talking about these 4 different winners, Mercedes are the ones that have crept in and are leading the constructors.
Well, your current champion, to talk about this, is on 1 point, and that's Freddie Rasmussen. And I think his name has not been mentioned enough. There's not been enough respect put on his name. He is the current world champion.
Yeah.
And things haven't gone his way. Event 2 comes along. He's the only driver to win at all 4 of these tracks. This is the moment for him to come out of nowhere.
Yeah, if he was going to design an event 2 to respond to only having 1 point at this stage of his title defence, it would look like this. past performance, no guarantee of future success.
All right, let's have a look at that event schedule then. This is what is coming your way for the next 3 days. We start, as I mentioned, at Silverstone with qualifying, and then we'll be back for the race at 21 Central Eastern European time. Then back Wednesday for Spa-Francorchamps and also Zandvoort, and then we'll close out event 2 with the Circuit of the Americas. Out of those 4 tracks, Matt, which one are you sort of most eagerly looking forward to commentating on?
I love Kota. I think Kota's a fantastic track and somewhat even sort of not regarded as one of the absolute best tracks on the calendar. I think it certainly is. I think we'll see some great racing with these guys, but also Silverstone. It's the home circuit. It's something that I've always loved to drive around in the game as well. Clearly not as fast as these guys, but I think it will provide a very close qualifying and also some great racing as well.
Okay, I was just having a little giggle because you mentioned about China being like the best ever on China back
no
in
number
2010.
one records around this one.
Okay, all right, well, I'll tell you what, that's where we're racing. We are racing at Silverstone.
Silverstone is one of my favorite circuits. You start a lap focusing on the exit because the main straight and turn 1 and 2 is completely flat, and you carry that momentum over the line for the first sector to gain some valuable time. There are some bumps on the track, so you need to choose a great line with minimal steering input, but then a big braking zone comes, which is already a great overtaking opportunity. You can overtake into turn 3 or position yourself to overtake or either do a switchback move in turn 4, and then there is a DRS zone to close the first sector, which is another great overtaking opportunity. Entering Brooklands and then Luffield is probably the favorite section for me on the track. You need to brake while turning and then playing with the throttle on the exit of Luffield, and then comes another long flat out section where probably a move is risky into Copse, but that's one of the most insane corners of the track. On the race, hardly flat out. On the quali, with these modern cars, quite easy flat out. And there comes maggot packets in Chapel. Very fast direction changes. You need to be careful on how you hit the curve, but at the same time you have to use all of the track to maximize lap time. If you do, that's a great middle sector. And then exit into a long straight again with DRS zone. Great overtaking opportunity, but onto Stowe, it's not a big braking zone. The corner is wide, you can have some amazing side-by-side action there, which then carries over into the last chicane, or even a very tricky pit entry. But then you are not in the pits now. Last chicane, high curbs, you need to avoid them, but obviously just send it through, accelerate again for a new lap, an amazing lap in Silverstone.
Thank you very much to Danny Bresny of the Mercedes team with that track guide. He was on pole position last year, but let's welcome a former winner from 2019 around Silverstone in F1 Sim Racing. It's the one and only Marcel Kiefer, former driver now, maybe R&B artist coming up soon. Maybe Marcel, I like it.
Good evening, Tom.
Okay,
also to you.
Welcome back. Talk to me a little bit about Silverstone and what made you successful around this track.
I think the setup. No, but usually, you have to get a great baseline setup because you want to go for a somewhat low downforce package whilst you're still trying to minimize having no downforce at all, because you need to go through these corners nearly full throttle like Danny said, and you have to kind of just weigh in how much do you want to go down. It's basically a long straight with corners. 3 or 4 big braking zones, and aside from that, you're full throttle. I think 90% of the time on this track. So it's you need a lot of straight line speed.
Well, thank you very much for that. And just to let everybody know who's watching, Marcel, you have your own area for this event too. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? What can the viewers look forward to when we go racing later on tonight?
So we are actually going to look at incidents a little bit more in detail like we did last time, but it's going to be even better.
Okay, fair enough. I like that. Marcel, I asked Matt and Alex about Event 1. How good was it? And what do you think the drivers will be coming into Event 2 with from that knowledge of the first 4 races?
I mean, most of the drivers are always saying the next race is going to be very, very boring, but now I don't trust them anymore because they gave us wrong inputs there when we asked them about their opinion. It was always a thrill to watch them drive on all tracks from Event 1, so I think it's not going to change for Event 2 in the slightest. And especially on a track like Silverstone, seeing how close these drivers are able to follow each other, it's going to be very, very close. I think the pit windows, as always, they are going to be super important. Strategy is going to come into play. overcut, undercut. I think we're going to see all sorts of attempts to climb the positions up to the top. So yeah.
Matt, Danny Beresny said about turn 9 cops and how exciting that is as a driver. Where will you be thinking that most exciting action for the viewers will be coming?
I don't think Cops is probably the best place to overtake around here. I'm thinking Stowe. Stowe is definitely, well, I mean, this is where you're going to be showing it later in the pre-race show, aren't you?
Hello, Freddie.
Lots of battles there. So I think, with the DRS, that's a really good opportunity. We're going to see a big old train, I think. But the difference with this year is that they can actually make overtakes with the train. We saw as well with Event 1, if we look back to there, slightly varying strategies can work as well. Danny Beresny in Australia made it work incredibly well for him, going from 7th to 1st. So I'm looking forward to something similar for that this time as well.
Well, I cannot wait for it. We go racing round 5, Event 2, Silverstone. Matt Gallagher, Alex Jakes, Marcel Kiefer. I'll leave it with you.
Thank you very much, Tom Deacon, as we look at Silverstone circuit and we build up for the resumption of the F1 Sim Racing Championship in 2025. We're into the opening moments on track, but just want to take you through the circuit. 5.8 kilometers, 3.6 miles, 18 turns, a much revised circuit through the years, but this one has been in the configuration since 2010 in this format, and we join Q2 Live now. It is a classic, we're in an event of classic venues, aren't we? We've got COTA, which I think in many years to come will be seen as a venue that ranks alongside these classics, mainly, Matt, because they stole all the corners that are coming up next.
They certainly have. I will say it's Q1 we're entering now.
What did I say?
Q2. Just wanted to just preface that one, just in case anyone thinks they've missed the match.
Right,
this is Q1, the start of Event 2. But if you've watched this before, you'll know that some wet tyres are on, or intermediate tyres are on these cars at the moment. And that's why we brought Marcel, you to come in a little bit and bring a bit more experience of course, racing in this championship not that long ago. How close is qualifying going to be? And who is maybe your star driver that you're looking for to kick off Event 2 well?
Star driver, I think we are on board with him. I think he needs a strong comeback, and if there's a king of comebacks in F1 esports, it's Mr. Frederick Rasmussen. I mean, he's also the only driver going out on wet, which is actually interesting. Maybe there's no rain coming at all, but I've heard there's a high chance of rain, so I wouldn't burn my tires too quickly.
15 minutes of Q1.
Nice. I like that. I like
that. As we just go through the systems checks, teams in, getting set up all the way through today. And we're hearing Mr. Kiefer a few moments ago talk about the weather changing as it goes. And Matt's found the page of the screen that tells us
the weather forecast.
The forecast, and it looks like we're going to get some traditional British rain showers, which means that this running early on, of course, we've already had parts of qualifying already this year decided by getting out there, setting the lap early, and then track conditions worsening. We've seen that happen before. Early stages, though, of a session that's currently in the dry that we do expect to be rain affected by the end of the qualifying hour.
Yeah, so before we lose you, Marcel, how are you reading this weather forecast that we're currently seeing? Plus 30 minutes, light rain.
I believe end of Q2 or beginning of Q3 we will have the rain.
Hopefully not too early into Q3. We want some laps before the fastest ones come out, ideally. But
I mean,
yes.
Hopefully it's going to be right before Q3, because then we have a full wet qualifying for that one. So we have a mixed up. Maybe there's a couple of drivers that are more confident in the dry. Maybe there's a couple of drivers that prepared, because it was a short break between event 1 and 2 to prepare for 4 tracks in so many different possible conditions. It's very difficult. Like, I remember back then we were sometimes stressing out so much. Sometimes you're even thinking, okay, you know what, we're not going to do any wets for some of the tracks and just rely on the setups that we have. But it always helps if you can get the laps in. Obviously, if that scenario kicks in, then you want to be prepared. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult.
How would you split the running? So, of course, dry, I imagine, takes priority because you assume it to be dry most of the time. How much of that, because of course you don't just have dry and wet, you have intermediates, you have wets, you have the crossover between intermediates and wets. How do you manage all of that?
I mean, usually what we did is we were focusing a little bit on the dry side a bit more, and we did 1 day or 2 days in total for each track of wet driving, but that includes also the races. So we need to get the tire data done, how much they wear down in a race and on each different compounds. And sometimes we are also doing a transition, so we fix the weather to go from wet to intermediate to dry, or from intermediate to dry. All these kind of scenarios, we want to get it done in one day and then focus again on the most likely scenario, which is probably going to be a dry racing.
Tell you what, exciting, Alex. We've got some red wall tyres.
We're actually effectively into the important part of the session. Now, Q1 in previous years has been a bit of a box-ticking exercise. Not in 2025. We have seen so many big names fall early on, and of course, when you've got the expected DRS train to come later on around a high-speed circuit such as this one, it really is a race ruiner if you can't find yourself to the top 10 shootout, something that Danny Berezne has been enjoying. A return to form, you have to say. Basically slipped back in the middle years, came back, re-established himself, and this year he's been a contender all the way through. His different strategy really providing an intriguing story from the very start of this 2025 season. Danny Berezne is ahead of Jake Benham, who gets the nod again. So the driver that we didn't see until Jeddah in the championship finds himself continuing for Mercedes. They're assessing who runs on a case-by-case basis as Fassi finds himself to the top of the timing page, something he hadn't managed until the start of this season, but something that he managed in 3 of the 4 races so far. Thomas Ronhar's gone quicker than him, 11 minutes to go.
That's a driver we need to speak about, Thomas Ronhar. You know, despite there being 4 different winners in the first event, he wasn't one of them. Despite being there in the mix, had a few moments, obviously Jeddah being an incredibly controversial one with how that ended with Danny Berezne. But you do wonder, was there a little debrief after event 1 of Ronhar, look, you've got the pace. Everybody can see that, but it's just the decision-making that was letting him down at moments in the races in event 1. Of course, he's still got the pace, we can see that now, fastest with the 25.4. But I am very intrigued to see how he plays tonight and the rest of event 2, because if he wants to win this championship, he can't be getting involved in incidents like he did with Berezne in Jeddah, and of course in Bahrain as well, he had a very narrow miss there as well. So Ronhar maybe just needs to rein it back just 1%, just 1 or 2%.
Yeah, Marcel, when you've had the pace and not quite delivered the result, how important is it to learn the lessons but not overcompensate? Because we've seen so many aggressive moves this year. You can't be cautious in the field, especially when we saw how punchy it got in all 4 races to start this year.
I think it also depends on where we are in the season and what position you are in, but I think Thomas needs to calm it down a little bit, maybe for the last few races, in case he would still have a shot at the driver's title, and there's only like a way to win it by only winning. Maybe then you could justify saying he's a bit over-aggressive, and I guess he has to take a couple of risks. But I think in general, you don't want to hold back against this squad of drivers, but you still want to make sure that you are like not exceeding the limit. Like you want to find the right balance. Let's just call it like that.
It's what the drivers are all trying to strike in this super competitive championship. So Thomas Ronhar currently fastest, ahead of our most recent race winner, and as you saw in the pre-show, youngest ever race winner in the championship, Otis Lawrence of Aston Martin. And Otis Lawrence and Thomas Ronhar quick at the moment. Looking down through the order, we've got Jarno Opmeer, who finds himself second in the point standings. Won't be delighted with that early effort. In 11th at the moment. We've got the soft tyres on the cars, and we're eventually going to get a full picture of everyone and their pace out there. Be intriguing to see whether Ferrari have just a more consistent second event, Matt, having been up, having been down, having had Q1 exits and victories with Barry Boromond. It was a real roller coaster for them, event 1.
It really was. Of course, Barry getting that victory, which was huge for his confidence for this championship. But I mean, we saw them arrive at the hotel yesterday, and there was an air of confidence about them. You know, briefly speaking to Barry, some of the team members, they're really hoping to bounce back in this one, and they feel like they can do that. And of course, 4th and 9th at the moment in Q1 is not a bad effort to kick things off. But they've got 2 of the fastest drivers over 1 lap especially. in their midst. You can't really bet against them that they won't have figured out what went wrong in that first event. Was it just coming into this season thinking, oh, well, you know, we won last time. You know, we've got a handle over this one. Perhaps a little bit of, I don't know, relaxing, who knows? But they've come out, they know exactly what's on offer now after this first event. And I'll be very interested to see how they bounce back in this one. But you know, Buremand and Longuet, they are rapid. So they're just going to have to... Longuet's going to have to get pole positions. Now, that's the thing he's known for in qualifying. Put that there, you're almost guaranteeing yourself a top 5.
Intriguing to see how he plays these next 4 races that comprise Event 2. Alfie Butcher is the driver you're on board with at the moment, heading into Maggot.
P19.
And now into Beckett's. Chapel Curve is the left-hander. Got to be careful not to extend at that part of the circuit, lean on the car, taking too much speed through. Performance of these modern Formula 1 cars has meant that Silverstone, which has always been quick, Marcel was telling you in the build-up, such a high percentage of full throttle. It puts the pressure on the heavy braking zones, including this, the Vale chicane. And now 1 corner to go. And that looks a minor moment, but when you consider the field is going to be very, very close, you cannot afford for that moment of correction. And Butcher finds himself in 13th.
Yeah, that was a costly mistake for Butcher there. Would have lost him a 10th at least. And you think about this championship, he's probably up there in the top 5 with that lap. But now he's under a bit of pressure. McLaren were running in the window there with both of their drivers, leaving it a little bit later before they do their first runs, Marcel. What did you think of that?
I mean, honestly, it's interesting. Like, I mean, you always have to judge, because if you go earlier, you have probably the benefit of the doubt with traffic that you don't get blocked by anyone. But the later you go, the better the track state. So, are you going for grip, or are you going for a confident run where you're not getting blocked or distracted or something like that? I usually also liked, when I was driving, not having too much traffic, because when you see a car right in front of you sometimes, or also a slow car, it can just put you a little bit out of that focus zone that you need. And then maybe 1 corner you're going to drive it worse than you would have done it when you were actually driving a little bit earlier on the track, when the track state was worse. So yeah.
So 5 minutes to go. Drivers have had 1 sighter out there so far. It's about finding your own private piece of the racetrack and making sure that you're not one to fall at the first hurdle. You do not want to be in the bottom 5, because you are relying, well, on a big crash like we saw last time out in Jeddah. Very controversial moment that eliminated plenty of drivers in contention for good points, maybe more. It's Ron Har, then Benham, then Otis Lawrence, the top 3 at the moment. Ismail Fassi, our championship leader, is the sentence I was attempting, in 8th place. And we will see now who is in the bottom 5, who is struggling for form. Currently got Jarno Opmeer second in the point standings going into this 5th race of the year. He's currently in the bottom 5.
The 4.5 minutes to go. Interesting that, you know, with that amount of session time, as Donoso really gets up on the curb there, trying to get the rotation of the car, that both the Mercedes drivers of Benham and Berezne have already done their 2nd laps. So you would imagine they're hoping that that's good enough, as we now watch the straight towards Stowe corner, the Red Bull chucking it in there. Don't see too much of the rear sliding around this track, Marcel. Maybe a couple of times, but nowhere near the same as some others.
Not really. I mean, in the end, an F1 car works with the faster you go, the more grip you have. So if the track is nearly full throttle all the time and they are throwing it into some corners, most of the time, if they have a nice balance, you don't really see them struggling for grip. But we could also see with Alfie Butcher in the final chicane, when they get to these slow speed sequences off the track, they might struggle if they are running a little bit lower on the downforce end. So yeah, it's a bit difficult to judge whether it's a driver error or if it's down to actually running low downforce. It's always something in between usually, but it could also be the pressure playing into it.
We've got Jarno Opmeer. We rode on board with him as he moved up to 5th place. It now puts Alfie Butcher down into the bottom 5, along with Carrington, Lee, Tormala and Donoso, who we were on board with, but no time on the board means that he has invalidated his lap for Aston Martin. 3 minutes to go. Ron Hart at the top. We've got a McLaren of Alfie Butcher in the drop zone. We've got a multiple champion Brendan Lee in the drop zone. And Alvaro Caratano has been a driver who's put it on the front row in the past. He will be hoping to try and match at least his teammate and championship leader, Fassi. It's always the driver you are compared to first. And we are just seeing on my timing page, the theoretical best out there is about a 10th fastest, just to give you a reference of if one driver is dominating the session at the moment, or whether there are 3 different drivers providing the best sector times all the way around the lap.
Well, speaking about time being lost, potentially for some of these drivers, it was interesting speaking to John Evans at Ferrari and Wilson Hughes at McLaren. They said it would be a 0.5 as the cutoff, and I'm looking at a 0.5, and only the top 8 have managed to achieve that. So it's interesting to see that teams' expectations compared to what they're actually able to deliver on the day with the lights and cameras on you can vary by a 10th or 2, which is fair. They're human, right? But yeah, it's interesting to compare data and expectation to what is actually unfolding before our eyes.
Okay, we have at the moment a pretty open situation. Let's check in with Danny Berezne.
I'm choking the last sector really bad. How did I lose more?
So final sector is where the problems are mounting up for Danny Berezne, one of the stars of round 1. Couple of podiums to start the year, but he is looking for answers in the first part of the lap. In 6th place though, and currently on an outlap. He's the driver we're on board with at the moment, looking for an answer in that final sector. 1 minute to go. Alfie Butcher needs an improvement, so does Carrington, Lee, Tormela and Donoso.
The Ronhaar and Lawrence are both on outlaps as well. Whether they'll actually continue and do this one is yet to be seen. But Danny Berezne on a push lap at the moment, 7th place on a mid 1 minute 25.5. It is so close in that mid pack. It can change at the end of this Q1 session, as we've seen so many times in Event 1. And Danny Berezne actually just weaving away. He's got 41 seconds. He'll have plenty of time, as he's now just trying to not get in the way of the flurry of cars that are going to come through. The McLaren comes through there as well. Half a minute to go.
Okay, 30 seconds in Q1 at the start of Event 2. This is qualifying to set the grid for our round at Silverstone. And we are finding ourselves on board with Donoso. Currently does not have a time on the board that counts. So this is going to be his last moment. And the skies have clouded over. We're expecting rain later in the qualifying hour, but it remains slick into this crucial moment. Can Donoso book his place into Q2 as we're going to see improvements across the board now? Checkered flag is out. These are the last laps.
So Freddie Rasmussen's come over in P3, got Jake Benham finishing in 5th, Jarno Opmeer 7th at the moment. Azildarim is out, so is Tormela in 19th. We're riding on board with Donoso as we continue to see the laps coming through. As, we've got Donoso, who hasn't actually set a lap time at all yet. You can see the delta on the top right, but that's on an invalidated lap time. So let's see if Donoso can get in the mix. His teammate, of course, Otis Lawrence, up in 6th.
Loving the look of that delta in the right-hand side of your picture. Otis Lawrence has gone fastest of anyone so far. Can Donoso keep it within the white lines? He hasn't been able to do so all the way through this first part of qualifying. Over the line, where does he go? Can he take a step forward? And Donoso finishes with the slowest time. Tormela is in 19th. It's over
on the cusp.
Brendan Lee, can he find an improvement? And Brendan Lee can't climb out of the first part of qualifying. It's Krozen Ozaldarim who took pole in China out in the first part of qualifying. 2-time champ Brendan Lee will not make it through. Neither will Joni Tormela or Donoso. We rode on board with him at the end. And the crucial question was, would there be a lap time found by Alfie Butcher to get outside of the drop zone? He answered it with P3. And we have our championship contenders safely through into Q2.
Yeah, that was an intense Q1 session. Otis Lawrence deciding to go for that second lap. So interesting to finish fastest on a 25.425. Nicholas Longuet was right on the cusp there in 15th place. He'll be breathing a sigh of relief, but just look how close it is. We said it was going to be a 0.5 cutoff, and it was in the end. But you've got a 10th and a half separating first all the way down to 15th, with Krozen missing out by 0.02 of a second.
And Nicholas Longuet gets through. Crucial that he did so. Crucial that he was able to find his way into the next part of qualifying. Matt, as you said before, this is a driver that we know for his one-lap pace, for his pole positions previously in the championship, but he's not been having an easy time of it in 2025. 5 drivers have fallen at the first hurdle, and it's Crozen, Ozelderim, Lee, Tormula, and Donoso. Otis Lawrence was top on a 1:25.4.
So we've not seen Claire Cottingham yet, but she's our pit lane reporter, and she's with Brendan Lee.
I am indeed, and unfortunately not exactly where you want to be at the moment, Brendan, but there were a couple of issues that you were having that was kind of outside of your control on that one.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm not going to put anything bad on people behind the scenes because they don't deserve to be talking bad of. But basically, the steering wheel shaft was loose, and that also meant to the differentials changing its own setting during the lap. So I was having to correct the setting while driving, and also driving basically with the steering wheel shaft not being connected to the car. So, yeah, interesting.
A few things to contend with, but we are sure that it will be looked at before the race gets underway later. We haven't actually spoken to you since you've announced that this is your final year in F1 sim racing.
I never knew about that.
That's a shock to you. I hope I haven't ruined the announcement. How are you feeling? How are you approaching every single round?
I mean, first of all, I want to do good for myself and for the team. I want to be winning races. That's the goal. So far, it hasn't really gone to plan. We have a chance to win in China, but we had an unfortunate collision from the car behind making contact with us. But ultimately, yeah, want to finish strong, want to enjoy it, and also want to be doing as much as I can also to boost the industry going forward.
Has it sunk in, though, that this is going to be your last year?
I think it hasn't. I think when I get to the final event, that's really when it's going to sort of sink in. I think at home I've been trying to distract myself from it a little bit by just doing my normal routine, doing my normal practice. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one on the final race.
Such a big character as well we're going to lose within the paddock. We, of course, I'm sure will see you around. Let's talk quickly, though, about the race. How are you going to do much from where you start? In the nicest way, my love.
Well, I hope it rains in the race as well. But no, we have a good strategy. We have a good work behind the scene with Samuel on the pit radio, and Seb also behind the scenes, etc. So yeah, I think we have a good strategy. We have a good plan. Fix the shaft. That's always the first part of it, and then we can have a really good race pace going forward.
Well, good luck. We'll see how you get on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Claire Cottingham. Speaking to Brendan Lee, who's not taking part in this second part of qualifying. Now it's Q2. Now it's Q2, Matt.
Now
and the
Q2.
rain has arrived.
The rain has arrived and it's coming down. And we've got a flurry of laps already. This might well be the best conditions we see in Q2, and we could see some shocks here.
Well, it's about roaring out of the pit lane then, and fascinating to get Marcel's insight, just to let you know where he's gone. He hasn't fallen out with Mr. Gallagher. Right, he's gone to prepare some analysis, and this is going to be crucial. But great to get his insight for how they divided up their time, how much of this is instinct, so they do not have the laps in the rain compared to the laps in the dry. It might mean a bit of a difference in terms of, are you reverting back to instinct? Are you reverting to talent? Sometimes you get drivers who just don't enjoy. Now, that's interesting. Drivers that don't enjoy the weather, and some that really do enjoy any opportunity for a little bit slower speed, a little bit looser at the back. Matt, we've got a split in tyres.
That's what I was just.
If that graphic is accurate,
yeah,
and I don't think the graphics department would do that to us. If that's accurate, we've got slicks out there, we've got inters out there, and the rain is coming down. So this is the lap to perform. But if you're on the wrong tyre, can you perform?
Well, this is, yeah, the lap. So some of the drivers, have actually got Ronhar and Caraton coming into the pits now. So perhaps they've decided this was not the right decision. So yeah, the drivers that have gone out on the softs don't have grip. They decided to give it a go, see if there was any, but look how much it's coming down. So this will be interesting to see if we do have the best conditions now, then these inter-runners are going to have an advantage.
Yeah, if it continues down, that's so interesting that it was between the two. So they're working in real time with their teams. The setup is here in the arena, in the studio. They're in constant conversation, but there was a judgment call to be made. Sometimes the appearance of a trackside camera cannot be accurate to the track conditions, but it did look like heavy rain, Matt, when we cut to it. And we're now on board with Josh Edu He is really throwing the lock of that steering wheel as he makes his way into Brooklands corner. It's one thing to be on the right tyre, you've still got to deliver in precarious conditions, and one mistake, you could be out of the condition window. You might be not able to set your lap time at the crucial moment, track at the best condition at the moment. We've gone from dry to wet. This is the time where if you get it right, you can book your place into Q3. If you get it wrong, you might have no right of reply.
This is when the drivers earn their dollar, for sure. This is when you can practice all you want, but the conditions change. So they're having to learn as they are doing these laps. And Josh Edu is one of the drivers that made the right call on these intermediates immediately. I noticed Ferrari and McLaren were both teams that went for the wrong decision and tried the soft tyres. Josh Edu is going to be one of the first drivers over the line. Usually in a wet session, it's the last one if it's drying, but it seems as though we're going to get worse and worse conditions as this session. Oh, look at how much oversteer he gets around the final corner, and that is Josh Edu over the line, but Freddie Rasmussen quickly topples him by half a second. These gaps you don't usually see as now Tom Manley goes to the top. Forget that, Jarno Opmeer.
It is ticking over all the time. Opmeer, Manley, now it's Jake Benham to the front. The confidence that you have behind the wheel is crucial. Right, let's listen in with Lucas Blakely. Tough to drive out there right now.
Inter runners, I believe there are 8 people on inters, rest were on softs. So inter runners, I believe there are 8 people on inters, rest were on softs.
So that information being imparted to our former champion. There's some fraught voices in this studio, in this arena at the moment, because this is really, really intense. If you got the tyres wrong, are you going to have a chance? Or are you effectively, if you got the tyre choice wrong, Matt, going to be fighting over 2 positions?
Here we go then. We're going to find out. I mean, Lucas Blakely hasn't even started his lap yet, and there's already times on the board, and you can see the rain coming down. We'll keep an eye on the live timing as the sectors come in to try and tell you the full story of what is unfolding right now. But Lucas Blakely is one of these drivers that needs a bit of luck. He needed the soft tyres to work because he's not really had his championship start so far in 2025, as Blakely is now beginning his flying lap here in Q2. But yes, you could kind of tell by the emotion of that team radio delivered to him that they kind of realised they made the wrong choice.
Are we in an 8-car battle? Are we in a 15-car battle? Are the conditions such that you can attack on the inters at this moment and beat a time ahead? That is the question. If you can't do it, if you're on the back foot, the first sectors, Matt, are not good reading if you're one of the drivers who left the pits on the soft tyre.
And let's not forget, Ismail Fassi's one of those. He's down in 14th, he hasn't set a lap time, and he is 9/10 slower than the optimal first sector in this session.
Okay, so we've gone from dry to wet. It continues to come down. We are in a situation at this stage, conditions can change all the time, but we are in a situation in this stage where if you pick the intermediate tyre, you have almost automatically booked your place in the top 8. So we now have effectively a shootout for the final 2 places in Q3. A reminder for you, if you're one of our newer fans, the times will reset. So we will go again for Q3 with a totally different equation in front of us. But now, for Burrowman, for Carrington, for Ron Ha, for Longuet, for Butcher, for championship leader, as Matt emphasised to you, Fassi and Blakely, can you find yourselves in the top 2 of this second battle?
And that lineup for 2 spots of Q3, Ron Ha takes what is provisional pole of the slower times. I don't know what we're going to call 9th place.
He's not miles away. It didn't look good in the first sector, but he's not miles away by the end of the lap.
Yeah, Josh Edu left a lot of time on the table, as we saw. He was the first driver. He had the best conditions out there, but just couldn't find the grip that he was looking for. So his time might well be assailable. And let's not forget, we've still got 8 minutes to go. Perhaps the rain starts to ease towards this session. The other drivers will keep an eye on that as we go through this. But Longuet, 13th at the moment. Alfie Butcher goes to 11th. So right now, Lucas Blakely has gone ahead of Edu.
That's a great mighty lap, considering the conditions and how Lucas Blakely needs a performance like that. No points all year, a contender for the podium in Bahrain, maybe the win. There were 6 drivers who felt that way at the end of our Bahrain race. Damage and contact with a couple of cars on a couple of occasions robbed him of the opportunity to contend for points. He's a former champion. He doesn't have a single top 10 to his name in 2025. What he does have is the 8th fastest time, the only one from Group 2 to get ahead of anyone in Group 1.
That's what we're calling it now, and I think it's well, it's a good job actually that we did have not everybody go on the right tyre, or like 11, because then this would be slightly pointless running. But we do have spots up for grabs for Q3, and yeah, Blakely, fantastic job there as we see Alvaro Carreton come into the pits, 13th for him. But yeah, Ronha right on the cusp in P10. Is there still going to be time to be had in these next 6 minutes or so as they put on another fresh set of intermediates, put as little fuel in as possible, and hope that the conditions are good enough to get yourself in the mix?
Are they static? That Lucas Blakely lap will give everyone encouragement, or are they continuing to worsen? It looks like pretty constant rainfall out there at the moment. It's Otis Lawrence who went out in the first group on the right tyre at the right time. He set a lap time 1,000th of a second ahead of Jake Benham. That's the story for everyone until you get to Lucas Blakely, who went ahead of Josh Edu. Josh Edu had a huge moment of correction all the way through the lap. Very oversteery lap in the wet conditions. He's in 9th. And at the moment, the two to make it through of the second group who gambled on the wrong tyre at the wrong time are Blakely and Ronha, 8th and 10th. There are 5 minutes to go. Does the rain continue to fall at the same intensity, or do we suddenly get an active final part of Q2?
The weather forecast suggests it won't get any better, but let's see. 5 minutes and 28 to go. Ismail Fassi, absolutely bulletproof in qualifying in Event 1. Yeah, it hasn't gone his way in terms of picking the right tyre. However, he's the only driver to not set any lap time whatsoever. We heard actually coming into this event, and today in particular, he's not feeling very well either. So he has to battle something there as well, physically. Can he produce a lap time to get himself into Q3? It's going to be crucial. Jarno Opmeer is sat there in P3 at the moment. He's sailing through to Q3, pardon the pun, as it is obviously raining. But Fassi needs to put in a lap here. We know we can do it. It's just whether he can deliver with potentially 1, maybe 2 laps, depending on how much time we've got left.
Williams and Fassi were the surprise package at the start of the season. Teams have had about a month to regroup and to go again and find some answers for maybe the pecking order not being what we expected. Williams hadn't taken a race win in the championship before Fassi did so at the very start of the year. With the rain continuing to fall at Silverstone circuit, it's a circuit that's high speed. This brings it back, of course, brings the lap time down, brings you back into a longer duration through the corners. And the driver tried to make the difference. Can anyone find an improvement to make the top 10? The aim for all of them out there. These lap times at the top of the timing page, all set early on by those who had the right intermediate tyres as the rain began to fall. It really does look wetter and wetter out there.
So Fassi's first sector is not going to trouble the fastest time of this session, but it could well put him in the mix. The middle sector is going to be the thing I'm really looking forward to finding out as he tries to negotiate Maggots and Beckett's in these treacherous conditions out there. Still on the intermediates, of course, and now Fassi, well, he's not too far away through that middle sector. So let's see where Fassi, it was 3/10 or so, I think, behind Butcher, as we saw on the top left. So it's not going to trouble Q3 unless he has a miraculous final sector, but he needs to get higher than 15th at the very least.
Yeah, give yourself an opportunity to try something different with the strategy. Near impossible from 15th, different from an 11th or a 12th place, but there you go. Time's fallen away. Identical lap time to Nicolas Longuet. Not particularly struggling behind the wheel. Knew what he wanted to do with the car. Car seemed to be responding. Conditions just aren't there.
Yeah, and he won't have time to go again. So Fassi, unless for some miraculous reason he's put in an extra bit of fuel to do another lap after a recharge one, will start 15th for tonight's race, which will make it very intriguing to see how he copes with a different turn in this championship tale of his. Of course, Opmeer, let's see where he qualifies in this final session coming up. We're seeing some green in the top right here for Alfie Butcher. So there is green deltas out there for some of the drivers.
It's not a million miles away from what we saw from Fassi, but you've got to get the car into the sweet spot. You've got to have a little bit of knowledge as well in how to manipulate the car in these conditions. Alfie Butcher currently sitting in the dreaded 11th place.
And he's 9 thousandths behind Ronhaar. That's all he is behind.
That's a massive moment. Will Ronhaar need a response? We've got, from the earlier times, Lucas Blakely was able to get ahead of a driver who had more favourable conditions. Can Alfie Butcher do it way later in the session now, when it's all on the line for your race prospects? Can he make the top 10? He's gone through the high-speed Maggots and Beckett section. It's all high speed around here. He'll only haul the anchors on significantly when he gets to the Vale chicane. That's after the corner he's just rotating through now. Through Stowe he goes, down to the Vale chicane. Caraton doesn't think he can improve, but what about Butcher? Also in the drop zone at the moment. Time is ticking down. Alfie Butcher to the line. Where does he go? He manages to break the top 10. That's a superb lap if you consider the conditions we're in.
So Josh Edu now is under pressure. P10, he was in Group 1, as we're calling it, and he's now right on the cusp, and he hasn't gone out for another lap. So he's sat in the pits, and he's going to be waiting to see if Ronhaar and Buremand and Longay can improve. Freddie Rasmussen's gone out there again, maybe to get a little bit of info for Q3, but this is still very much on for that final Q3 spot.
There's third turn on the racetrack. Currently resembles a pond. Silverstone down there, village corner, and we make our way onto the Wellington Straight, and Otis Lawrence had the fastest time, and only the McLarens have had a wet setup that has allowed the drivers to attack going forward, and just seeing if anyone else has got a sector time that's going to worry anyone. I don't think so. Let's check in with the Ferrari man.
Is the rain getting worse and worse?
Yes.
Is the rain getting worse and worse?
Yes.
Is the rain getting worse?
I don't think he repeated that several times.
I think the rain's getting worse. And confirmation there, because Barry Burman's giving it everything from behind the wheel, and he's looking for confirmation from the team that, look, are you seeing the same thing I'm seeing? He's going to find himself in 12th position at the moment.
It's a mental thing, though, isn't it? He needs to be told the information of, yes, but Butcher has just improved and gone to 9th. We just saw there in the top right-hand side of your screen, Burmand is a 10.5 or just over up on his previous lap time. So he is improving out there. He's going to feel good motivation after seeing that first sector. So as much as the conditions are slightly worsening, there is still lap time there as through Copsey goes, very much flirting with track limits there, but 2.5 tenths up.
He will take that. He will take that, and he will hope that that is a legal lap time. Thomas Ronhaar's first sector is going to give him an opportunity as well. So there's still time to be found here at the end. Lucas Blakely's pushing on for McLaren, but it's Barry Burman that we're on board with at the moment. Driver currently in the drop zone. Watch the exit. How early is he able to get on the power here? Got to keep it within the white lines. This is so important that he can deliver. Clock is at 0. This is it for Barry Burman across the line. Can he find a lap time when it matters most? And he manages to get to 10th. He manages to get there. And then Lucas Blakely is in 10th position. Barry Burman in 11th. Alfie Butcher looked to have done enough when it mattered. But Nicholas Longay has delivered in the other Ferrari. He's fought his way through. Ronhaar has got there as well. And there was an opportunity to improve at the end.
Yeah, the conditions, despite, you know, what we heard, it was getting worse, and it still looks pretty difficult out there. The time was able to be found. Yeah, Longay in 9th, Ronhaar in 8th with a 34.8, which was not far from those first laps that we saw from the likes of Freddie Rasmussen, Tamas Gal, Danny Beresne. So yeah, the one driver I'm kind of mystified as to why they didn't go out again is Josh Edu in Alpine. They just sat in the garage thinking conditions aren't going to get worse, and now he's starting 13th for tonight's race.
Barry Burman, Alfie Butcher, Josh Edu, Alvaro Caraton, and our championship leader, Ismail Fassi, out in the second part of qualifying. And it will be Lawrence Benham, Otmir, Manley, Beresne, Gal, Rasmussen, Ronhaar, who had to find a last gasp lap there, found himself in 11th heading into the final part of the session. Then Longay and Lucas Blakely are contenders for pole position in Q3.
Now, I'm interested to hear this one. Claire Cottingham is with Ismail Fassi.
The championship leader, of course, alongside me. It was so impressive the last time out, how many pole positions you managed to pick up, 3. Of course, this is not where you want to be going out before the final part of qualifying. Can you just talk me through what happened?
Well, I think it's a mix of bad timing. We were unlucky at the end as well because it showed us that it wasn't gonna stop raining. There was a dry line at the end of the session, so we just finished a lap like 5 minutes before quali was ended up, and yeah, I don't know what to say, to be honest. Just things that happen. So yeah, I'm still confident that we can get a lot of places, we can score many points, but starting P15 is not what you want when you come back from event 1.
Well, exactly, but there is a positive that Silverstone is a very good track to overtake on.
It is. Always it is in this game. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the race. It's a long championship, so yeah, we will see.
It is a long championship. Good luck for the race.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to Claire, getting the thoughts of our still championship leader. And it's time for Q3 then. This has been a Silverstone session, once again interrupted by the rain. And is the rain going to come down enough to get us into a debate, Matt, between inters and wets? It's certainly very, very intense there. Improvements at the end on the intermediate tyre, but this is a condition that the drivers won't have put the same number of hours in compared to the dry.
Absolutely not. I'm no meteorologist, but I can read a weather forecast that tells me numbers. And it is saying to me that these are the worst conditions that we're going to get, and it's going to ease up as we head through Q3.
Nice.
So this will be interesting. This is kind of what we want, right? We want to see an improving track, an ever-improving track, and it will be last across the line. That's how I'm reading it. Let's see, because of course we didn't expect the track right at the end of Q2 to be able to produce the lap time. And you can see here on the
dry line.
Yeah, there is a dry line at the moment. Whether that stays, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, we could swing back the other way. The track could be drying out. You spoke earlier on about sometimes you get the sessions where you want to be the last one over the line. This could be one of those. The nice thing about it, because we've got this dynamic weather situation in play, the driver's just going to have to deliver in every condition. It's going to be a little bit bittersweet, isn't it? If you can find a great lap time in the wet, then it dries up and you find you haven't quite got the same balance in the dry. But in the wet, in the dry, someone's got to step forward and take our 5th pole of the year. You're looking at the first action in Q3. A dry line is developing around the circuit.
Certainly is. We're taking a look at Tamas Gal.
Or a slightly wet line, slightly less wet line.
Yeah, less wet, less pondy than it was in Q2. Tamas Gal and Haas in general have been very impressive in qualifying. They've not really been able to convert that same potential for the race. But Gal, once again, in Q3, what can he manage in that Haas car? As we ride on board with him. I like this, right? I love riding on board in these mixed conditions, watching the best drivers in the world have to combat unknown conditions as they enter each corner.
Yeah, great to see. It's where the driver can make a massive difference. Got to keep it within the drying line, or the best track conditions at the moment. It is going to be about a wheel's width away. You can do that on the straight. You can't do that through the corners at high speed without taking a little bit of a wiggle that's going to cost you lap time, it's going to cost you positions, unless it dries up. And even if it does dry up, it's going to have to dry up significantly. Outlaps for Otmir, Manley and Berezne. Tamas Gal is out there again. He's the driver who scored a point in Saudi Arabia. Last time out, a 10th place. Haas have been in the mix a couple of times. They were in the mix in China for a while, and they'll be hoping to add to their points tally. Just a single point on the board for the American team so far this year.
Riding well with Otis Lawrence, the youngest ever F1 sim racing winner. And you can see the intensity in his eyes as he combats the Silverstone circuit, trying desperately to get on the accelerator. But you can't take too much, otherwise you light up the rear tyres and time will disappear. Into Cops we go now. Off-board camera as we now check to see what Gal is able to put on the board as the first lap time in Q3. It's a 1:33.6, so much quicker than what we have been seeing. Lucas Blakely easily eclipses that with a 32.9. Is this where the ex-champion kickstarts his campaign? Lucas, incredibly impressive in Q2 with those wet laps. Are these the conditions where he thrives?
Good opening effort for Lucas Blakely. Better first sector for Otis Lawrence, though, and better second sector as well. If you can keep it together, this time is going to be good enough to take provisional pole on the evidence of the first 2 sectors of the lap. 1 corner to go, out of club, across the line. Aston Martin man is currently the fastest driver. It's a 32.7. Some still very big hitters to come our way. And we've got Freddie Rasmussen, the reigning champion, on an outlap. Jake Benham is pushing on. Danny Beresnay, his teammate, currently P4. He would have hoped for slightly better because that's gone awry on that lap.
Yeah, over 3 seconds slower for Danny Beresnay, so he's made a big error in the middle sector, it appears. So Beresnay, well, that will be 10th for him unless somebody gets an invalidated lap. He'll have to go again, but I guess the one saving grace for him is that the conditions appear to be improving. Tom Manley up to second now in this Q3 session, not far away from provisional pole, 26 thousandths of a second Tom Manley away. Very impressive in event 1. As we now take a look, briefly looking at Longgate. And we've still got 5 laps, to come through. Thomas Ronhaar being one of them I'm very intrigued to see, as the first sector for Ronhaar, the fastest bar Otis Lawrence, only 200ths away, Ronhaar. It's very close out there in the first sector. 0.2s for Otmir, Rasmussen, Benham, Ronhaar and Longay.
It certainly points to this being a fascinating end of the 5th qualifying session of the season. Blakely in 3rd, and then you've got Gow in 4th, Beresnay in 5th. We're waiting for a flurry of what look quite promising laps at this stage, you have to say. Here's Jarno Otmir about to come over the line and go fastest of anyone so far by 100th of a second. And Jake Benham takes that away absolutely immediately. And he is now top of the pile. Benham ahead of Otmir, ahead of Lawrence, the top 3. Freddie Rasmussen, a winner around here in the past. He can say that for every venue of event 2, and he's currently the fastest driver. Track looks like it's improving all the while here. Ronhaar was able to scrape through into Q3. He's currently top of the pile, and those laps just kept getting quicker and quicker and quicker.
Yeah, scintillating lap from Ronhaar. Rasmussen, well, if he can get pole position, and it's wild to say this, being it so far into this season, he would have doubled his points tally. Only have 1 at the moment. Of course, you get a point for pole as well. So Rasmussen, you can't really believe he has 1 point at the moment, but you can see he's still got the pace, and he can still definitely deliver. But Ronhaar was last over the line, and he was the fastest. So we still have times to come, as Danny Beresnay went for another lap. Still in 10th place, sadly for him, with a 32.9. But Ronhaar currently fastest of all.
He is indeed, and it's a 32.5 for him. If you're wondering, if you weren't with us for event 1 and you're wondering, is Rasmussen just not getting on with the game? Sometimes you see former champions struggle in that regard. Rasmussen should have way more than 1 point. He was in a really good position to contend in the opening race of the year in Australia, fell away on the last lap after contact, and then since then the event really unravelled for him. Unlucky to be caught up in a couple of incidents, though. He is still rapid behind the wheel of his Red Bull, and we are just waiting with the drivers taking a breather, taking a pause. Ronhaar trailing back, and final adjustments being made. New set of the Inter, and away we go once again. Under 4 minutes to go, drivers will try and prepare the temperatures into the window that they need and then attack on. Fassi is our championship leader going into this 5th race of the year. He's not taking part in Q3. Otis Lawrence currently sitting 3rd in the point standings, our most recent race winner. Fantastic drag race to the line with Jarno Otmir after a little bit of contact at the final corner. 27th and final corner. Silverstone now is our venue, and we're going to see who is going to master the 18 turns of this latest version. Bit of a calm before the storm out there, as the drivers know the track is improving all the while. It's going to be a satisfying pole position for whoever can take it.
This is going to be really interesting because you can see there's no rain coming down. It is drying now between, well, 3 minutes left of this session. So how do the teams play this? You want to be last over the line, but you also want a lap because everybody's going to want exactly the same thing. Yeah. Do you go early to make sure you get a bit of clean track? Well, we've got a driver there, a McLaren, coming out of the pits of Lucas Blakely, I believe. So Lucas Blakely's blinking first, going for the clear track. Is that going to be the right decision?
Yeah, it can be the difference between him remaining in 9th or him taking pole position. If there's a mistake, if there's an issue, if the drivers are held up. I think the drivers are going to be ultra cautious about that, though. No one wants an impeding penalty around Silverstone circuit. There are some circuits where you can roll the dice, you can try something different with the strategy. This is so high speed, you really do suffer horribly towards the end. We've seen tactical moves towards the last lap, with Freddie Rasmussen taking victory in the end. But
oh, hold on a second. Sorry, Alex. I've just got excited.
Soft tyres for Otis Lawrence.
But not for Lucas Blakely.
Yeah. Okay, so watch the tyre graphic now at this stage as the drivers go on their outlap. So Gau's on inters, Blakely's on inters, Beresnay on inters as well. Only Otis Lawrence, who looked good in the wet. It's not like he's the 10th fastest driver and he's needed to roll the dice. This is a confident call by either team or driver. The lovely thing about being on site is that we'll be able to get the answer fairly soon. But this is all about making the slick, soft Pirellis work when the entirety of the field has gone for inters.
I'm watching Otis's face to see if he goes, nope, no grip out there. He is trying to generate some tyre temperature, as you can see, with the very aggressive steering. It's close, right? Otis hasn't given up, but he's just trying to see where the grip is, but it doesn't look quick at the moment. The inters, by way of the fact the other 9 have gone that way, appear to be the fastest tyre, but will they be in 54 seconds' time?
He was only 0.2 of a second off. He seemed down in 6th place, but there were improvements late on there. I think everyone out at the same time, he would have absolutely been in the hunt. If he can switch those tyres on and get a performance, he's looking at a big opportunity to take pole. But if it doesn't work, he's looking at P10.
Look at the bunch of cars. This is what I was talking about. We've only got 27 seconds left, and they're all going to be jostling for position to try and be the last over the line.
And you've got to try and keep it clean at this stage. An impeding penalty, that can really ruin things. Lucas Blakely wanted no part of this. He's crossed the line. He's got there.
12 seconds, and 9 of them are still on outlaps, Alex.
Wait for it. You will see the graphic if they don't make it.
They've all started at the same time. Look at this. They're not allowed to slipstream each other.
That was banned. That was banned at the previous event. Oh, round he goes. Otis Lawrence gambled on the slick tyres. It's not worked out. And they're all incredibly tight together.
And meanwhile, be careful there as well for impeding.
Yeah, comes back on the circuit. And the risk versus reward ratio there just wasn't on. Get it right, you take pole. Get it wrong, you finish in 10th. Championship leader was out. There was an opportunity there to make big inroads. We've still got an active battle for pole position if Lucas Blakely can deliver.
Do you know that question about do you go early, do you go late? By the looks of what's just unfolded behind Lucas Blakely, this could be a massive opportunity for him to take pole, but we still have big first sectors from Rasmussen and Benham behind.
We do. They are in a train. They are attacking on. The checkered flag is awaiting our drivers still in the session. The McLaren of Lucas Blakely, you can see he's massively up on what he managed before. He's going to need to be because he's trying to take a step forward. Others will respond as well, but the others are together. They have been warned about slipstreaming at the end of event 1. Lucas Blakely crosses the line, having improved his lap time by a mile. He's got a 31.1. He's got provisional pole. Does anyone in the train, in the gaggle, have an answer? Danny Beresnay does. Danny Beresnay's gone to pole. Freddie Rasmussen at a track that he loves so much, he takes it away. Rasmussen, Beresnay, then Blakely, then Manley, then Benham, Ronha, Opmeer, second in the points going into this Q3 session. Longay is in 8th. 8th, and it's Gal and Otis Lawrence who gambled on the soft tyre. The train contained a carriage that made it all the way to pole position. Freddie Rasmussen, only 1 point in the championship until this moment. Make that 2 provisionally. He's taken pole at Silverstone.
He certainly has, Freddie Rasmussen. We knew he could do it. We knew it from event 1 that he could do this kind of performance. And right now, he's on provisional pole position. I think the stewards are going to be a little bit busy with a few things that have gone on in that qualifying session. Of course, we didn't see right at the end them all jostling for position. But of course, they will submit onboards and all kinds of stuff. All the teams will be fighting their corner.
Well, are McLaren going to say, hold on, you told us we couldn't slipstream?
Yeah.
And they'll all argue, hold on, well, if it's backed up, what can we do?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So that is going to be a really contentious call because it's going to decide our grid. As it stands, Freddie Rasmussen, Danny Beresne, Lucas Blakely, then Tom Manley and Jake Benham, your top 5. Thomas Ronhaar ahead of Jarno Opmeer, and then Nicolas Longuet, Thomas Gal and Otis Lawrence. Great effort gambling. Anyone who goes for the tyre gamble, always a favourite in my book, but it just was too soon for slick tyres.
It was close, wasn't it? Yeah. It was almost worth the risk when you look visually at the track, but the intermediates were the ones to work. And of course, when we reflect on this championship, of course, Otis Lawrence at the moment 3rd in the drivers' standings. Is it worth the gamble?
Yeah, he was 0.2 of a second away. He'd set that time earlier than the drivers who had gone slightly later in the sequence. Track was improving all the time. You saw how much it improved by the end. That was get it right, get pole, get it wrong, P10. I think if you gave them the chance again, they might go, all right, there's nothing wrong with 6th place. But we'll have to ask them, we'll find out. It added a really intriguing narrative to what was a topsy-turvy session of wet, of dry, of really wet, of increasingly drying track, and Freddie Rasmussen's back on top.
Gentlemen, expertly done there to Alex Yates, Matt Gallagher, and to Marcel Kiefer, who's now left. Wow, never a dull moment in F1 sim racing. Blink and you will miss a development, and boy, oh boy, did that qualifying session do just that. So the qualifying has set the grid and the return of the form that we expect of a world champion, and that is Freddie Rasmussen sitting on pole. Matt, we said he would need to do something, and he's done just that. He's answered the critics, many would say.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think we can massively critique him after event 1. There were things that just didn't go his way. But the thing is, he's had good qualifying positions in event 1, and it didn't turn into anything. So he's going to have to deliver and win around Silverstone. He's done it before. He can do it again.
I loved his Twitter comment. Not looking good for 2nd in the championship this time. So he's got a sense of humour. I love it. And he's with Claire Cottingham right now.
Yeah, the champion back to where he wants to be, I'm sure. Pole position, you must be incredibly pleased with that one, Freddie.
It's a good result. I doubled my points from event 1, so yeah, happy.
You are happy, yeah? We haven't spoken to you yet this season. How has the pre-season training and things like that been going? Have you been doing lots of sim work? Did you do not much coming into the event? How does that work for you?
I've just been doing the same as always, putting in the hours and a lot of work. Nothing different than any other year.
Do you not look at it differently as now that you've got the championship under your belt?
It was a nice relief last year to finally win, but no, nothing's different now.
Did you let your hair down? Did you go and party?
No.
Didn't party at all? You did nothing to celebrate?
No, I just went on vacation with my girlfriend.
I feel like that's a celebration, so you're selling yourself a bit short there. Heading into the race then, pole position's exactly where you want to be, especially at a track like Silverstone. Are you hoping that there could be a bit of rain? Were you happy when the rain came?
I wasn't happy at the beginning of quali, but then I kind of got the feel for it. So in the race, I don't really know. It's always chaos. I have no idea what to expect.
Okay, but are we confident of a win?
Nope.
Great. Freddie, thank you so much. Good luck for the race. I'm sure you're going to do amazingly. Let's see if we can pick up a first win for the season for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Not only a fantastic driver and a world champ, he scored more points than any other F1 sim racing driver. He's got full-time bants. I love it. I would love more of a conversation with Freddie because it's just laugh a minute. He's got a good sense of humour, and the fact that he even started by I've doubled my points.
Yeah.
that shows the frustration he's had and how he's overcome it now.
He's our Kimi Räikkönen, isn't he? He's not changing for anyone. It doesn't matter. That sounds a great way to celebrate a title, going on holiday to me. He needs that, though, because it's a wide-open championship. We're getting huge swings in momentum. And, yeah, that can change his year.
Starting in the front row with Freddie will be Danny Berezny. We can hear some of the team radio. We remember turn our attention back to Jeddah and how it all went wrong for him, and he was very upset by the incident with him and Thomas Ronhaar. But great driver. It seems like the form's come back so much so for Danny Berezny this year, Matt.
It has, and Mercedes in general, right? They're 2nd and 5th, I think, on the grid. They are the Constructors' Championship leaders at the moment. They are just very quietly going about their business. And they've got 3 drivers as well. Pookie's on the sidelines, and yet he was right there in Event 1 as well. Mercedes are looking incredibly strong. You know, there's chaos everywhere, there's different pole sitters, but they keep delivering.
Yeah, and interesting enough, Piquet had scored a fantastic amount of points, quite a hefty sum, and in the Drivers' Championship looked like, well, surely he'll come back and race at Silverstone. But no, Jake Benham does it, and I guess in that sense that we saw the prize pool earlier on, that's where the money is, that's where they're going to attack it as a team.
Yeah. I'm sure the drivers are not delighted about it. I'm sure that they both feel... I mean, Pookie's 4th in the standings coming into this after 4 races. I'm sure he would have loved to go. But Mercedes have decided that's how they're going to deploy their fighters for this year. And at the moment, they're top of the championship. That means the most to them.
Hey, if it's not broke, don't try and fix it. So this is the team radio from Danny Berezny that we can hear right now.
Let's go. First one.
All right. Well done, lads. Tricky qualifying session and well managed throughout.
I should have teed it up as let's watch Danny Berezny's face more than anything and watch his reaction.
More than let's go.
Let's go. But that's what it means to him. I mean, especially after Jeddah. But now it comes down to the race as Otis walks behind us just there. And we should definitely talk about that. Let's talk about it because I was as shocked as you were, but rolled the dice, going with those softs with 2 minutes left. Lucas Blakely avoided any busyness on the track or congestion, or as you refer to it, as that train and the implications of that. But Otis Lawrence, he rolled the dice. I was willing him on a little bit, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, any driver that goes for the tyre that no one else is using, that's always such an exciting part of qualifying. But yeah, it'd be interesting to hear his thoughts because he was in a good position. P6, not ideal, but when the championship leader's out in the second part of qualifying, you've got to take your opportunity.
Matt, turning our attention to the Scuderia Ferrari team, they had 2 weeks training, getting ready in Maranello to get here. Nicolas Longuet will be starting down in 8th. It was a sort of return to form for them, but not really because Barry Bowman starts in 11th. So how do you look at their coming into this event too? They did all that practice, but then the rain sort of affected it for everybody.
Yeah, it's hard to measure, isn't it, from a qualifying session like that, where we were commentating Q2 with a Group 1 and Group 2, because we had a split of intermediates and soft gamblers and things like that. So for Ferrari, look, I'm not sure. It's not really a return to form. You know, saying Longuet in 8th when usually we expect him right at the front. We've seen that in many seasons gone by. Same with Barry Burman. So for this, they'll still be disappointed for sure because they have to score a massive amount of points if they want any chance of anywhere near the top of the constructors, which is what a lot of the teams are striving towards. So yeah, Longuet can still fight from 8th, Burman as well, but yeah, it depends. It's chaos, right? We've had chaos in Event 1. It's going to be chaos, as Freddie Rasmussen said as well. He's not confident from pole. Anything can happen.
Yeah, it was so fascinating to watch the difference between the slicks or the inters. I would like to hear Longuet's team radio from the Ferrari team, if we can hear that.
Did I make it?
Yes, you did. Nico Parr didn't. He missed out by 30.
Oh my, well, how close is that then?
There you go. I guess there was a lot of shock for the drivers throughout this, and knowing, even you guys had mentioned how long had they prepared in the wet weather at Silverstone. Probably not as much as they had done in dry conditions, Matt.
No, certainly not. That's why I like those sessions so much, especially, it's the dream, right? To have the worst conditions right at the start, and then it gets better and better and better, and you can see the laps coming in, and then it's last across the line. Then we saw the chaos with everybody trying to be that last person over the line. It was brilliant to watch. Whether the teams enjoyed it, I'm not so sure. Definitely not the drivers that were involved. But yeah, it's just exactly what you want to see from a qualifying session.
Starting in P3, Lucas Blakely, a driver that we know is a former world champ, no points scored. So we're talking about Freddie Rasmussen only having 1 point. Two now, sorry. After that qualifying session and being on pole, he now has 2 points. And he was buzzing about doubling his point tally. But Lucas Blakely, no points scored. There was a composure in his drive. At one point, thought it all gone wrong. 8 team drivers had gone out on the inters, and he was out in the slicks, but he stayed calm and collected, and now has a P3. So a real opportunity for him to get on a podium.
Yeah, excellent session, but he needs excellent sessions all the way through to fire up any sort of... He's just looking to win races and then just to build momentum, because we've been talking about the chaos, we've been talking about the upsets, but he should have points on the board. Certainly after Bahrain, he should have had at least 15 points on the board in that race.
Yeah, he said it's after event 1, not the event he wanted. A roller coaster of 4 races, dedicated and worked so hard for this event, and I think that's every team. And then they've come into event 2. It's not the quiet, calm start that the drivers would have wanted, all the teams, because they're being a debrief now, thinking, what on earth? We've done so much practice. Yeah. You even said almost a month has passed.
Yeah.
And you get to this stage now, Matt. There's never a dull moment, is there, in sim racing?
That's the beauty of the championship. They all practice relentlessly. They all have their data and this, that, and the other, and we can achieve this. But you've got to do it in these qualifying sessions right here, right now. And that's why we see upsets. That's why we see new stars that have put in more hours than everybody else come through. It's great to watch, right? Because then those teams like the ones in McLaren that perhaps haven't delivered to what we expect have to really go back to the drawing board, even maybe after this event as well, because they'll be scratching their heads going, but we were winning championships. What's happened?
Yeah, 3 poles for Ismail Fassi. We mentioned, or you did, not feeling 100%, and starts in P15. And then you've got further down, Brendan Lee, a devastator here is shaft's gone. That'll be fixed in time to go racing again later on tonight as we go around Silverstone. But Fab Donoso and some of those drivers down there, really, it's got such a tall order in F1 sim racing for them to maybe gather some points. How do you see Ismail Fassi's race going today, Matt?
It's going to be fascinating to watch, right? Because he's going to have to score points. I think on average, you have to score 15 per race in order to be champion. Fassi's done brilliantly in event 1, but it's a different order now. He's 15th. He said himself, I think he was quite confident that he can come through the field. But you have to deliver. And with how chaotic we've seen these first 4 races in event 1, coming into this, he has to keep his nose clean. A little bit of damage, especially around such a quick track like Silverstone, you're in big trouble. So, yeah, I think Fassi definitely has it in him, and we've also seen it is very possible to overtake in this game. Yeah. So bring it on.
Okay, all right. We're just waiting to get an interview to round out our quali session of round 5 around Silverstone in event 2. Before that, though, we should look at the starting grid for later on tonight. So qualifying has set the grid, and here we have it then. Fab Donoso, 0 points this season, starts right at the back of the grid, follow alongside him the Joni Tormada, the Finn. He's picked up 3 points so far this year. The 2-time world champion is in 18th, and Ulas Ozildrim with 1 point so far this year starts in 17th. Further up, Haas looking to get more than 1 point so far this season. Crozen is in 16th with Ismail Fassi, your championship leader, in P15. Further up, Alvaro Carreton, his teammate for Williams, is in 14th, and Josh Elu, who's scored 50% in the races so far this season. He scored points 50%. Will it happen again? Alfie Butcher starts in 12th with Barry Brumand in 11th for the Ferraris. And then in 10th, Otis Lawrence. We will hear from him in just a moment with Thomas Gao in 9th place for Haas. Further up then, Nicholas Longe, we heard his radio. He'll be starting in 8th with Jarno Opmer, the 2-time champ, in 7th for Red Bull. And then further up, Thomas Ronhaar starts in 6th with Jake Benham in 5th. And then scoring in 3 out of the 4 races so far, Tom Manny starts in P4 with Lucas Blakely. No points. Will he pick up some today? at Silverstone. And then to round out things in the front row, Danny Brosny in second and Freddie Rasmussen a return to form. And as he has mentioned, he's doubled his points. Right, an exciting grid for us there. I'd like to hear from the man who rolled the dice in Q3 is Otis Lawrence. He is with Claire Cottingham.
I think it's safe to say quite a disappointed Otis Lawrence alongside me. We briefly spoke before you came to sit on the couch about whose decision it was to go on those tyres. Can you just talk me through your thought process ahead of the session?
Honestly, felt like I had the best pace on the grid today. I came here, did the best I could. The pace was good at the end of the day. I just didn't get it right in Q3 with the rain. I went on the softs when it was, an inter track. As you can see here, I was sliding all over the place. But it's frustrating to do this when I felt quick. So in my best track on the game, but it is what it is.
On the plus side, if it is the best game for you on track, then we still have the race to go. That was only obviously qualifying. You start P10. That is still a positive place to start at Silverstone, a track that you can overtake quite a lot with this game.
Yeah, agreed. It's gonna be hard to overtake though, because of the dirty air and just everyone's in the DRS train. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm just gonna give it my best. Just forget about quali, move on, and now just go full focus for the race.
I know you just said forget about quali, but I'm just going to talk it one more moment. But when was it the point? Obviously, we saw you having issues staying on the track. If it had been the right call, it would have been an absolute blinder of a call. You would have been on pole position, absolutely, if the track had worked for you. When did you kind of realise that actually this was maybe not the right call?
Honestly, I was a bit skeptical coming out the pits,
Yeah.
because I went into turn 3. And then I was a bit slidey, but I had some grip at the same time. So I was wondering maybe it'll dry up throughout the lap. But as soon as I got into my lap, turn 1, I had a massive snap on the rear and I was full lock left. But honestly, the grip was really good in the few corners, better than the inters. But some of the slow speed corners was really no grip, where the downforce didn't help. So didn't have any tire temperature either. So kind of knew it wasn't the right decision. As soon as I got the pit lane exit, I was just full wheel spinning out the pits. But it's unlucky. It's one of those days. But we'll see what happens.
Well, look, Otis, you said it. Let's forget about qualifying. P10, you're going racing. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire, and to Otis. Let's forget about qualifying. I feel that's a great sentiment because we are going to take a sort of short break before we come back at 2100 CET to go racing. But I like to see that in a driver. He's frustrated, even though, he gambled. He went under team orders, tried something different, and it didn't work out. I like that in a championship like this.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell it was the wrong decision from his body language and the fact that it's his best circuit. Sometimes it works for you and it's great. I just think the risk versus reward ratio is way off there. Turning a P6 into a P10, maybe it would have been pole, but he would have still been in that battle for pole with the inter tyre on the car. It happens. He's 16. He'll learn and he can go full attack for the race.
Yeah, I want to see maybe more of that than maybe Otis said. Team orders, no. I'll do what I want to do, Otis Lawrence style. Matt, what will you do in the break time before we come back to go racing at Silverstone? Hit us with it.
Probably have a second dinner.
Okay, fair enough. Absolutely. I suggest you do exactly the same. So we'll come back to go racing for round 5 around Silverstone at 2100 CET. Thank you very much for watching. But just to remind you, Freddie Rasmussen is in pole position. We'll see you at 2100.